Melanated glow, what you don't know, for the culture, for the people. Hey, let's go. Greetings, my YouTube family. I hope you missed me as much as I missed you. I want to thank you so much for your energy that you have given to this channel, from the subscriptions to the views to the comments to the conversations that stem from whatever I post, to the return visits from people that I might run into, and then we talk about something that I posted a video of. And so I'm very, very, very grateful for all of that energy. I'm always grateful. So this video stems from me reposting a piece that I wrote. I wrote it around the time that, this corona thing came about, and it was just so interesting how everyone thought they were a teacher. Everyone wanted to teach something. Everyone thought that everybody should bow down to what they were saying. Or don't go out there and protest. You got to do it this way. This is the reason why I'm not out here. And just talking to people all sorts of ways. And I feel like it was a lot because they were not connected to those people and what they were experiencing, because everybody has different levels in this journey. Everybody experienced something different. And it's the spirit of a person that allows change to happen. They might have to go through this, and you can't stop that. Sometimes we want to stop a person from experiencing what you personally don't want them to experience, is not knowing that they must experience that thing to get whatever out of it that they're supposed to. Just like when you talk about somebody in an abusive relationship and you want that friend to get rescued, you want that friend to get out, but that friend isn't ready. If they aren't ready for whatever is going on inside of them, of course we want the best for them and we can urge them and speak to them, but what we can't do is not be there for them when they need somebody to turn to when they actually are ready. Or jump in prematurely and then get upset because everything that you did was in vain because they really weren't ready. So I feel like the spirit is so important. And that's why I reposted that piece, because it's the spiritual essence of the thing. The spirit is so more important than the mind and the body, because both of those things are so temporary. When you talk about our mental states, we can go from being sad to being mad to being happy all within a matter of seconds. That's how temporary it is. When we talk about this physical body, it goes through different stages during our lifetime. We are not the same as we were when we were younger. I mean, some people experience more pain as they get older. Oh, this old age getting in these bones. While some of us who exercise more and do things like Smite Week, previous video, or things like that, we realize, oh, I feel younger than I did in my 20s. I eat different, so I feel different than I did in my 20s. You have those different kind of conversations, but there's always change, because that's the only thing that is consistent in this lifetime is change. But our spirits house so many memories, so many truths, so many lifetimes, so many experiences. It's really no time when it comes to our spirit, and that's the reason why if our spirit can dominate our mind and our body, we can see much more of what is actually true and what is actually real. So the spiritual essence, if I had to title this conversation right now, it'll be the spiritual essence. And it led me to reposting that, led me to some reading, some meditation, some inward searching, because everything is inside of self. And I think I want to start this off by going over the Asili, because one place that I feel like different people at different levels of the awakened state has a lot to do with what Asili are you ascribed to? What Asili do you subscribe to? And so Asili is a word that Marimba Ani uses. Her book is called Yurugu. You might have heard of it. It is an African-centered critique of European cultural thought and behavior. And this book is so deep, so insightful. So a lot of what I'm going to quote is from her book, but I'm also pulling in things from Dr. Layla Africa, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Muada Ashby, So there's a lot of different readings that I did, but a lot of the quotes today is going to come from Yurugu. And the Asili word comes from Yurugu. And Asili is the cultural essence, the ideological core, the matrix of a cultural identity which must be identified in order to make sense of the collective creations of its members. And Asili is a Kiswahili word, And it has a lot of different uses in a lot of different contexts because, when we come to our ancestry, we don't waste. So we have one word that in this essence it means this, in this essence it means that, it means different things. So it means beginning, origin, source, nature, sense, essence, fundamental principle, the seed, the germ. That thing that takes root is the beginning that actually breeds what she terms as the Uramawazo and the Uramaroho. And those two words come from the Kiswahili word, which is Uramaduni, which means civilization or culture. But she took the Duni off and she replaced it with Wazo, and that is the thought, and Roho, that is the spirit life. So it's the thought and the spirit that comes from the Asili. All of this has to deal with culture. And it's so important to understand that the thoughts that we have, the spirit, the energy that we give to our thoughts, all that comes from culture. But culture depends on where you're getting that culture from. So going back to a lot of the dissension that we're having as African people has to do with where your thoughts come from. Where do they stem from? Where's the origin of why you're thinking that? Who does it benefit at the end of that thought process? Your actions, who does it benefit? Your thought, who did it just benefit? Does it benefit self? And I want to go ahead and read this quote that just touched me as I was going through rereading to see, if I was going to do this YouTube video or not. And the quote reads, "The secret Europeans discovered early in their history is that culture carries rules for thinking, and that if you can impose your culture on your victims, you can limit the creativity of their vision, destroying their ability to act with will and intent and in their own interest." I feel like that needs a repeat, but if you need to hear it again, just rewind, right? That was so deep, but so accurate. Because we always ask ourselves, how can we operate like this knowing that it's not beneficial to what is going on for us as a people? How can we subscribe to this system when it doesn't benefit me as a person, let alone my family, let alone my race, or anyone that looks relatively like me? How can this person make this decision to create this when they knew that it wasn't for the best interest of for themselves or for the people that look like them? How can that happen? Because they learned it very early on. If I can impose my European Asili, which has a lot to do with control, then I can take away that culture's true culture connection to the universe, to nature, to those that are real. And how can I do that? But present an illusion. Something that's not real, something that's not connected. And so it made me start thinking about the age of awakening, which is what we're in right now. Our true awakening. And what are we awakening from? We had to question something. Everybody that goes through this awakening, they actually question something, whether it be religion, whether it be something their mother told them, whether it be subscribing to this slave ship, I call it, that it is a job. Subscribing to paying these bills, because who said that you own this land? We've been here for millions of years, especially when you learn your ancestry, right? When you know where we came from, we're the first beings of this earth. So how can you charge me to be right here because you created a law, but then slavery was legal? It becomes a whole bunch of questions that then takes us to the root of the essence of existence. And then we start realizing a lot of these things you decided that was best for you and your people. But it doesn't really benefit me and mine, because when I look at the statistics, it doesn't add up. So the age of awakening, I felt, came with some kind of question. Those that are true awakened. Not awakened because they repeated something, I call them GERTs. Repeated something that somebody else said, but awakening because I realized something that I didn't realize before. And now I'm on a search for where the truth lies. I'm on a search for where does this truly come from. I'm on a search for what is the root of this tree. What was the seed that was implanted, and what did it consist of to be able to produce this? And where do I fall in line with that thing? So talking about culture, culture is a process which gives people a general design for living and patterns for interpreting their reality. Its aspects are ideology, which is a manner or the content of thinking characteristically. The ethos, the distinguishing character or moral nature, the guiding beliefs, those change too. and worldview. Its factors are ontology, which is a branch of metaphysics concerned with nature and relations of being. Cosmology, the branch of metaphysics that deals with the universe as an orderly system. And axiology, the study of nature, types, and criteria of values, and the value judgment, especially in ethics, our ethical nature, Maya, we're going to get to her. And its manifestations consist of behavior, values, and attitudes. And then I had to look up attitudes because we've been talking a lot about attitudes. Oh, the female has an attitude, the black woman has an attitude. But where does that attitude really come from is the question. An attitude, the definition, is a mental position with regard to a fact or state. See, sometimes our attitude comes from something that we perceived, not the actual true essence of what it is, but it comes from that. And all of this is culture. So how we live is culture, and that's the reason why culture is life. Because if we can become truly awakened, what happens is we destroy that European Asili, that attachment to that way of thinking, that spirit life that we was given this system so that it operates within itself. And we attach ourselves to our natural essence, which is an African-centered Asili. And just naturally we do this, but it allows us to now approach things in a different way. Our attitude changed, the way we view things changed, the way we see things change. Yeah, we might still be at that job because I'm like, oh, are you still working for the man? Yeah, we might still be at that job, but our approach to that job is now different. We look at our being there as being something temporary, something that we're there with a purpose, something that we're supposed to show with who we are. So we might start to dress different. We start to talk different. Hopefully we start to eat different because it's mind, body, and spirit. We always look at things as a whole. Our stomach is connected to our mind. And if our spirit rules all, then we need to be clear so that we can be able to have that consistent path to the universe and what we're supposed to be able to receive. So we start operating different. We start realizing maybe I'm supposed to be connected to this person. Maybe I am connected to this person. And maybe me changing this one thing because they're watching may change something in them. They may come to me with a question that's been sitting on my spirit and I didn't even know why. Now we can actually operate into what is actually happening. The energy that's always been there, but we might not have given that mindset to. So the age of awakening, I feel, destroys that European Asili. It destroys our desire to want to be a part of it. And yes, some people may look at it in anger and condemn those that are still there, but they have to remember that everyone has a different timing. Everyone's level is at a different level. Some people may or may not wake up. Some people may realize it, some people may not. But if you don't approach it with love, then you don't help that person out of that situation because they're just going to put a block up to whatever you have to say. And just remember when you were in that situation. Remember when you were in that mindset. If somebody would have said something to you some type of way, how would you would have responded? And sometimes we forget where we came from, and that's why compassion is so important. Maya teaches order. It teaches justice. It teaches balance. But it teaches truth and reciprocity, propriety. It teaches those things that we need to have: harmony, compassion, understanding, because we are one. Ubuntu. As you grow higher, we grow higher as a people, so you help me because we are that one. So yes, that comes to the end of this first segment because I don't know how long I've been talking, and I know that this thing is going to come in pieces because there's so much in my mind that I just want to pour into this video. But it's very important to understand the Asili, the nature of it, the Udamawazo, which is the thought that goes behind keeping this system perpetuating. Because sometimes we do things and we don't even know that we're giving energy to that Asili. That takes me to something I know I wrote down that I want to... Okay, yes. Both the Udamawazo, which is the thought, and the Rojo, which is the vital force, the thrust, the energy source of a culture, is what gives it its spirit life, are born out of the Asili. It's not separate from it. It came from it. And in turn affirm it. It is its manifestations. So the thought in the spirit life is manifested from this Asili that they continue to pushing to us that we have to keep this going. We got to keep this system in the same position. We got to keep voting. We got to keep this system in place. We got to keep working. We got to work to pay these bills. You know, those things that we deposit inside of our next generation is all about keeping that Asili strong, because the Asili needs power. It gets its power from us. That's how it's energized. It isn't energized on its own. Because if you think about it, if we're connected to nature, nature is this energy, and we get nature, we respond to it. But it needs this external energy that it gets from a different type of power. A power that they kind of manipulated. Let me control what they think, what they know, and then I can be able to utilize them to perpetuate this thing into being. I mean, just think about it. Do we need money to live? So many people say that. But what are the essentials of living? We need water. We live by the Nile because it gave us water. Some people don't even know the difference between natural springs, may have never even visited one, versus the ocean. The cleansing that comes from both. The reset that comes from both. We need food. So many people don't even understand how they can be able to make their yard their food. We've been structured to follow the European Asili to go inside of grocery stores and feed ourselves that way. Eat things that have been chemically induced with preservatives and other toxic things that are entering our body that are foreign to our body. Because our bodies are ancient. It has a DNA that is ancient. And it hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is what we put inside of it. And wondering why we're getting cancer and all of these unnatural things. And all forms of disease is mucus. And disease is dis-ease when our body is not at ease. It's always mucus, whether it's arthritis, which is mucus in the joints. Whether it be sinus, which is mucus in the nasal cavity. Whether it be mucus, whether it be a cold, which is mucus inside of the lungs, that we're coughing up mucus. It doesn't matter where it is. It's some type of mucus inside of the body, and that's Dr. Say, because I didn't mention that doctor earlier in this talk. So, where do we give our energy to? Where does the energy, the thought come from? What system are we perpetuating with that thought? With that, much love, peace, awareness, mindfulness, Hatep, and all of those beautiful, beautiful things. And hopefully this made you think about something, or something that you do, or maybe inspire a conversation, and give thanks. Peace, my beautiful people.